Okay, well, I guess first off, my name's May and I live in California, and his name is Sam, and he's from the UK. We've known each other for around 2.5 years now, and we've been long distance for a year and a bit. Um, we met on an app online called Tandem. The app's for learning languages, and we were both learning Norwegian, and we happened to pair up because not that many people are learning Norwegian. and
Why did you pick Norwegian?
So my stepdad's actually from Norway, and I wanted to learn how to speak Norwegian, but I didn't want to sound like a toddler speaking to him, like only able to introduce myself. um,
And what about your boyfriend? Why did he want
he's actually studying in Norway. We spoke like 3 lines of Norwegian to each other and then switched to English and never switched back. So
to? Do you both still actively learn Norwegian then? You're still actively
um,
pursuing it, or?
he is. All his classes are in Norwegian, like he's fully submerged in the language. I, on the other hand, I kind of got lazy. I was like, I
You just
found,
met him and you're like, "Yeah, I've got you."
yep. I'm like, I found him. It's the only reason I was on the app. Just, yeah. Whew. All right. I found my Brit boy. We're good. Everyone can go home now. um, no, I can understand a bit and speak a bit, but I've gotten a bit lazy as I've gone into college and stuff. But he teases me about it regularly. So
Obviously, when you first met, how long did it take for you to, like, know that you had that connection?
I would say it's really the first day we talked. It was just so different from anyone else I had spoken to on the app. We just clicked immediately. We had so many things in common. And since that first time we started talking, we haven't gone a day since without talking to each other, whether it's text or FaceTime or video call or voice call.
It was one of those where you know, right? You just knew.
Yeah, I was talking to him and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, there's no way I'm ever going to be interested in someone who's 5,000 miles away from me. This is ridiculous. Like, get a grip on yourself. You've known him for 4 hours. Like, so I just kind of pushed it aside, but we just kept talking every day and became like best friends.
Right. So you did, from that moment, you started speaking every day, and then obviously it developed into you finally meeting each other.
Yes.
And how did that go? Like, what was that like?
So it's kind of, sorry if I'm talking too much too, but it's kind of a long story, I guess. I had a trip planned to tour around Europe during winter break after my first semester of college with my friend. And this is after knowing him for about 8 months. And my friend backed out on me. And I was just so sad because I had saved up for years for this trip. I was so looking forward to it. And him, very slyly, we're still just friends at this point. We've never discussed a relationship. He goes, well, what if I go with you instead? And I was like, oh, I guess that could work. Let me try to ask my mom if I can go tour around Europe with a guy from the internet that I've never met. We'll see how that goes. um, and somehow I convinced her. We had like this huge awkward FaceTime with his parents and him and my parents and me, and they met each other.
Wow.
Before my mom decided that I could go. Um, but it worked out, and we booked the tickets, and we met in Paris, which was a great place to meet for the first time.
Wow, how
A little bit after a
romantic.
year. I know, it was ridiculous. We like just met each other riding the bus, and we like drive past like the Eiffel Tower and stuff, and we're just like, what is life right now? It was like a movie. It was crazy.
So how long were you 2 out there then?
Like, how long were we on the trip?
Yeah.
Oh, it was, unfortunately, we only got to spend a week together. We went to Paris and Berlin and London, and then he had to go home for Christmas.
What was your favorite place?
Oh, Paris. It has to be Paris. I love London. Um, but I think
You're not saying that just because we live in London, right?
no, no. I really do love London. But Paris just, maybe it was because it was the first place we met. Like, I mean, we slow danced under the Eiffel Tower. Like, I can't beat that,
Wow.
you know? So I think that holds a special place, but London is very nice. That was my second favorite.
So how was it like when you're saying that obviously you guys were just friends? When you saw each other face to face, did you decide like maybe this can be something more, or had you talked about it like prior? How was that?
So we did talk about it prior. I would say maybe like 2 weeks after him suggesting that I go on the trip with him, he was like, okay, I have to, before we meet in person, I just want to put it out there that I am really interested in a relationship if you're interested, but I know it's totally fine if you're not. Long distance is really inconvenient. We might not even like each other in person, but just kind of putting it out there. And I felt the exact same way. Like I've had this huge crush on this guy for like almost a year at this point. Um, but we didn't want to make it official until we had met because even though all the FaceTimes and phone calls at this point were like we were super compatible in that way, I guess we just wanted to wait, I guess.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Joey and I are actually the same. So we had the biggest crush on each other like months before he actually came to see me. But the official date for when we count when we started officially dating is actually the day that he came down and I met him in person.
Yeah, and it's kind of strange when someone asks me how long we've been together because I guess since that date, but at the same time, like we had agreed to be exclusive until the trip came. So like we planned the trip in July and we met in December. So like that whole time, like I was not looking for anyone else and he wasn't looking for anyone else, but we still weren't together. So I have no idea what to say when people ask how long we've been together.
So would you say for those 5 months you were doing boyfriend girlfriend sort of things?
I think so. Like at that point, we talked on the phone like every single day. Like I said, we both agreed that we weren't gonna see anyone else until we met. But I guess we still weren't official. I don't know.
It's one of those where, yeah, it's virtual and you feel this connection that's so real and it's, emotional, but
Mhm.
you still want that physical validation that
Yeah,
like you guys can connect in reality.
yeah. Because I guess you never know. Like I don't know if you guys have ever met anyone else online, but I have a few online friends I've met in person, and sometimes we totally clicked in person, and other times it was like a little bit awkward. Like they were a little different than what I thought they would be.
Were you ever scared of that? Like on that day when you arrived in Paris, what were you feeling like? Were you scared? Were you just excited?
Oddly enough, I was not nervous to meet him at all. Like I felt so confident on who he was as a person. Like I wasn't scared he was going to murder me. um, I just felt really ready to meet him. Like it felt like this whole like over a year of getting to know each other had like led to this moment, and it felt so right. But there was an underlining lining fear of like, well, maybe we won't get along, but we got along so well on like FaceTime that I didn't see why it would be any different.
Did anyone ever, like, scare you or, like, make you, like, doubt it or anything, like, before you went?
Oh, for sure. Like, my mom was trying to be as supportive as she could, and she really tried, and I really appreciate the effort. But I also understand, like, if I was a mom and my teenage daughter wanted to fly to Paris to meet a guy from the internet, I would probably have quite a few conversations with her too. Like, just so you know, you don't have to go, like all these things. My friends were really supportive though. They were like, "Oh, this sounds like a movie. Go for it. You have to." So luckily everyone's been pretty supportive. Just really wanted me to be safe as well though.
After you saw each other, have you ever seen each other since that time in Paris or
Yes, we've met 4 times now.
Oh, 4 times, wow,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, we've been
Has
lucky.
he come to California?
Yes. Yeah, he came to California. He's been to California once, and I've been to see him the other 3 times.
Did he like it in California?
He did. We had a great time. We went to Yosemite and San Francisco and drove down the
Oh,
one.
wow.
Yeah, we had a whole little, like, road trip. It was great.
That's amazing. You know what's crazy? I lived in California my whole life.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I had never been to San Francisco and I always had really wanted to go. And like to this day, out of all the places Joey and I have been, San Francisco is like the one that I'm like, oh my God, I loved it there so much.
Yeah,
Like I would go again.
I love San Francisco. Definitely my favorite city in the US. It's really cool.
Is it hard to see each other often?
It's luckily we're in a position where we both have had jobs for a while, and I work on campus at my university. So when there's no school, there's no work, and he's in a similar position. So luckily, we've been able to kind of scoot over there every 6 months, every school break, and see each other.
Oh, so that's your plan, is like every time there's a school break, try and see each other, and in the meantime, save up for it.
Yeah, exactly. We both like saving money is such a huge thing. Like I'm such a little penny pincher. I don't go out to eat with my friends or anything. So I'm like, $20 on a meal. That's like what, like a 20th of a ticket. I'm good. like, um, like
That is a great mentality to
right,
have.
like I like you guys, but I would really like to see him. So sorry, the meal's not worth it. Uh, so we've definitely been lucky because I know other couples have like a really huge like hurdle seeing each other, whether it's family or work or school or like visas, depending what country they're from. And luckily, the UK to the US, it's not too difficult.
Obviously, you've seen each other 4 times, but there's obviously a huge chunk of your relationship where you're apart.
Hmm.
How do you manage this as a couple? How often do you communicate? What do you use to communicate? And like, what's the hardest thing that you find with this period?
Well, we FaceTime at least once a week. Unfortunately, we're only really able to FaceTime about once a week. And then we tried to video call, or not video call, sorry, audio call once a day or twice a day if we can, depending how our schedules line up. Um, Unfortunately, with like the time change, he's 7 hours ahead right now, and I find 7 hours so much more difficult than 8 hours ahead. I don't know if you guys had a similar experience. Just in terms of like when he wakes up versus when I'm when I'm at school, it doesn't line up as well. But yeah, and then we try to text each other throughout the day, every day, just kind of giving little updates on what we're doing.
Yeah, literally every day we would be talking to each other.
Yeah,
There wouldn't be a day where we wouldn't be talking.
I feel like there was a transition in our relationship because in the beginning it was nothing but messages.
Messages.
Then slowly that turned to like little voice recordings here and there. And then it went to phone calls. And I think that was probably my favorite. Like if I can just hear his voice, I would be really
Oh
happy.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we would talk via the phone as much as we could.
Hmm.
But yeah, we kind of maintain that communication like basically the whole day. Like even if he was asleep, I would be like sending him pictures like, oh, this is what I'm doing, or oh look, I went to the store, like the most boring things. But I knew that he loved it, like just waking up and seeing, like a little clip of my life, of my day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's how I feel like we are too. Like even if our schedules don't align enough where we can voice call every day, like I'm sending him Snapchats while he's asleep of the most like mundane things. Look at this flower I found. Isn't it beautiful? Look at my food. Like sending memes and stuff. I feel like that's kind of the cool thing about a long distance relationship is if we were as close to each other, like physically close, I don't know if he would be getting all these updates about my life. I don't know if he wants them, but he gets them. Especially with him living in a different country, just seeing a picture of like his walk to school, I'm like, whoa, those buildings look so different from
oh my
where
god,
I am.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I love that. I remember, I think Joey came up with the idea one day. He was randomly like, "Oh, you should give me a tour of your town," and I was like, "Okay." So I just went walking one day. I just went walking like blocks and just taking like video and be like, "And this is the road I go to school, and this is my
That's
house,"
so
and like the
cool.
most random stuff. And then he did the same thing, and obviously, like it feels like so like different, like he's from a different world.
Mhm.
So it was really amazing.
Well, it was funny because she grew up in like in a desert. So like when she did her tour compared to mine, like mine, I try to be all fancy and go to like the landmarks in London, even though that's not, you know, I showed her my real town. It's not like that. But it's like if you saw the comparison of pictures, I'm like next to Big Ben and she's like next to
A,
some
a
bar.
pile of dirt.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That's exactly how I feel. I live in a very rural part of California and it's mostly just cows. But he loves it. He doesn't see
Oh, wow.
cows every day. Like I'm like, look at this rolling field. I think it also has made me appreciate where I live more because it is very rural and it kind of feels like a dead end like town and you're just like, oh. But then seeing it through his eyes, you're like, oh, it is a unique part of the world and it is different from other people experience.
You mentioned as well how your parents and your friends supported you, and you mentioned about that video call that you had with his parents. Have either of you like ever had anybody like totally against it, or is it just support from both ends?
My mom's friends who like I call aunts, I guess even though they aren't my aunts, they were very concerned before I went out there, before I met him for the first time. They were kind of telling my mom, are you sure you want to let her do this? Like it might not be safe. Um, but for the most part, everyone's just was just concerned for my initial safety. And since then, they're like, well, I mean, if you want to date someone that far away, you go for it, I guess. Like I wouldn't. I've had a lot of people tell me they would never be in a long distance relationship, but that they respect that I am in one. My stepdad actually was in a long distance relationship, and that's how he came to the United States before he met my mom. So he was pretty familiar with how it goes and was just kind of asking me, it's really hard to say goodbye, huh? I'm like, oh, yeah.
When you're apart, do you guys have any sort of methods of like sending each other gifts or like any like I don't know cute creative things, or do you do any like creative dates or anything like I don't know like a movie date for example? What do you guys do?
So we send letters fairly often. Um, I've sent a few packages. Like he really wanted to try this type of Oreo that was only in the US because the US has every type of Oreo on earth. And so I mailed it to him, but it cost like $30 to mail a packet of Oreos. And I was like, okay, maybe this isn't the most financially viable option. We send each other a lot of cards, packages, not as much. He actually sends me stuff through Amazon Prime fairly often. Um, Unfortunately, where he lives when he's going to school, Amazon Prime's not available. They don't have Amazon in Norway. But he's home because of coronavirus, so at least I can send him stuff through Amazon Prime now.
In terms of packages, I know exactly how you feel because I would say the first half of our LDR, we were sending packages to each other quite often, actually, like once every 2 to 3 months. And then we got to the point where we just realized, hold on, this is like costing us like $200 because like it's like $80 just to send the package, but then you've also got everything inside the package. So it was like on average $200. And whilst it was like so cute, the boxes that Jen sent me, like I wished I could literally show pictures of all of them. Like they were amazing. I freaking love them so much. She would like get all creative and design the flaps and stuff. And it
Oh,
was I loved it, but like it got to the point where we just decided, okay, we're gonna have to stop this because if we want to move to each other and pay the whole visa stuff, we're gonna have to start saving.
yeah, yeah. And I totally get that because I would love to send him packages. I really want to do all the cute stuff too. Um, but we are pretty tight with money. Just being like, we do want to close the distance. We do want to pay for the visas. We want to pay for flights. Like we need to um, try to be as smart with our money as we can while both being in university.
How much does it cost when you post a letter?
I think it's around $2 or $3.
Oh wow.
I just bought like a huge collection of stamps, so I don't have to face the price every time. It feels easier just to buy like 20 at once. Um, but yeah, I would say around $2, maybe a little bit over.
That sounds like a definitely way more affordable option.
Yeah, yeah. I try to stuff like as much stuff in the letter as I can too, like pictures of us and like little like coupons for when we see each other next, like, you know, Happy Valentine's Day. This is a coupon to your favorite restaurant here, like that kind of thing.
That's
That's
adorable.
cute.
Yeah.
The next thing we'll discuss is just about um, the barriers to your relationship. So anything that is something that is just an obstacle that you have to constantly keep passing. For example, money, for example, school, anything or any other stuff that you maybe want to talk about as well.
Yeah, luckily our obstacles are all obstacles I think that can be overcome fairly. I don't want to use the word easy, but I guess easy compared to having like a family obstacle or countries that don't get along or that don't have good relationships with each other. Um, but the biggest obstacle I would say is school at the moment. He wants to get a master's degree, so he has quite a few more years left. And I'm actually pre med, which means I have around 9 years of formal education left. So that's definitely the biggest hurdle. Is we're both set on finishing our education first, and school in the U.S. is not affordable on any level. So at the moment, we're hoping to close the distance by me applying to medical school in the UK to the graduate medical school program once I finish my bachelor degree, or applying to a master's degree program over there.
So what's the timings on that? Like, so this is your plan to close the distance, right?
Yeah, we're hoping in 3 to 4 years we'll be able to have our visas aligned at least enough to get married, and we're not sure what route we want to take because from what I understand, you can either do like the fiance visa, where I would move over for 6 months. I believe that's what you guys did, right?
Yeah, so we did the fiance visa. Jen moved over here, and we had basically 6 months to get married, and her visa was 6 months. So
Mm.
when you get married in that period, you can then apply for a spousal.
We're considering that, but the only issue is if I want to study in the UK, it would be a bit difficult to get a student visa I was like if you have a relationship with someone in the UK, they might not trust your reasons for
Mm.
getting the student visa, which, to be fair, I want to study in the UK. I do. Um, but it might be an issue. So we might have to get married before closing the distance. So then I can move over there and then apply to programs after moving. I'm not really sure what we want to do yet, but we're hoping within 4 years we'll be at least married, and that will hopefully make things a bit easier.
I honestly hope that in 3-4 years you can close the distance. You can come to England. So that's your preferred destination for you to come over.
Yes, so we've discussed it. We really want to close the distance by 4 years because I mean, you guys understand. We would just really like the distance to be close. So the plan is after I finish my bachelor degree and he finishes his master's degree, and I might get a master's degree as well just to one up him. Um, but um, if I don't get into a school in the UK, he'll move over here while I go to medical school in the US. So it is a bit flexible, but long term, we both want to move to the UK. He has a really big family that he's close to. Healthcare wise, the UK seems to be a lot better than the US. I don't really have like any close family where I live, so I feel like it'd be easier for me to move long term.
So this is something that you guys have really discussed like in depth then.
Yeah, we this all kind of happened before we actually met in person when we were still kind of in that in between stage because we really didn't want to go into a long distance relationship lighthearted. We both were like, it's going to be really difficult. Someone's going to have to move one day. Like, are either of us willing to do that? So we've had quite a few conversations about it.
Well, that's really good to tackle it nice and early. That way you have like a direction and you sort of know what you
Mhm.
want to do already.
And it's good as well that you guys have a backup plan. So like he's open to moving there. Like that's amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing because I feel like a lot of people do just have one plan. And if it doesn't work, then it does sort of feel like the end of the world for them. So it is good to have that flexibility.
Yeah, we definitely understand, like, it would be so devastating if we only had one plan and it didn't work, so at least we try to have all these different options, like, "Okay, yeah, you'll come here if it doesn't work out, and we'll stay here until I finish all my schooling, and then we'll try to move to the UK," or, like, you know.
Cool. And I guess the way we're gonna end it is just for you to say your top 3 tips for other LDRs out there.
Well, you guys are, like, the kings and queens of LDR, so I don't think I could say anything you guys don't already say. Like, it's great. I know someone else in LDR, and we all like follow the page, and we're like, "Oh, did you see what they posted?" But um, but I would say I think the most important thing, I guess, in a in-person relationship as well as like a long distance relationship, is I think communication is just really important. Um, especially long distance, right? Because if you have an argument or like a disagreement or something, you can't just hug it out or kind of put it to the side. Like all you have is communication with each other, and that's what your entire relationship kind of is most of the year. Um, so I think just being really honest and straightforward with each other is the best way to build like a solid relationship and have difficult conversations early is definitely another tip. I think just having patience, because it's easy to have a little bit of miscommunication over text or like, um, I don't know, just being frustrated with not being able to see each other or the time zones. So just having patience for each other and knowing that's not a super easy thing.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I guess we can leave it there. If you're happy with that, unless there's anything else you want to add in.
I'm good. Just thank you guys for having such a cool Instagram page and making memes that I can finally send to my boyfriend.
Make sure to check out our online shop for long distance relationship gifts and merch. Visit www.survivingthedistance.shop and check it out for yourselves. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified every time we upload new content.
Bye, guys.